Start this again. Let me tell you about my experience of reading this book this summer, okay? The New God Image by Edward Edinger, okay? And to a lesser extent, I was reading Archetype of the Apocalypse by Edward Edinger again, but Edinger is talking about the coming of the new God image, okay? And what he's talking about is an archetype, okay? Now, for mixed benefit, an archetype is a instinctive pattern which is in all of us, okay? There are many of them, okay? The Mother Archetype is a typical example, is the most obvious example that everybody knows, okay? And these patterns are not constellated. They don't start operating until something calls for them. So when a woman becomes a mother, bang, all of a sudden the Mother Archetype is constellated and she's going to live out the Mother Archetype, okay? It's not, there's no question about it. It's, once it's started, it's not going to stop until it's played itself through. It's like we turned on that record and that record is going to play through, okay? Right? How was taking your son to school? I won't ask.
A sobbing mess.
A sobbing mess.
The whole way back.
What did he first?
That was Mother, right? That was the Mother Archetype.
Yes.
Okay, well, at least you know.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So at least you know it was the Mother Archetype playing through,
Yeah.
right?
No, I think she took him to college.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, college. Okay, I was like, was that his
We've
first time
never
going
been
to
separated
school?
more than a week, so.
She's now an empty nester.
So it's your detox period, right?
Well, my cat died the following Saturday, so it was like half my family was just.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that
We
must
have
be
lots of
hard.
It's been an emotional
We have lots of beautiful animals at the animal shelter. I
All right.
volunteer.
Okay, so the God image is also known as the self, and this is coming through, okay, and it's coming through all of us. Okay? The God image has been constellated, and it's coming through. And what Edinger is saying is, in the end, we're all going to be one thing. We're either going to destroy ourselves, or we're going to be one thing as a species, okay? And the reason we're not one thing now is because we developed in many different locations around the world independently for thousands of years, and so everybody came up with all their cockamamie ideas. But now that we're all whatever their ideas were, right? But but eventually, we're all going to be one thing. Okay, we're all going to. We're going to play with the opposites enough, so we're going to find a middle ground on the opposites of everything. I recall about 40 years ago, Time magazine had a cover story about how all human beings will look in 10,000 years. Okay, they actually had on the cover a picture of a human being 10,000 years from now. Okay, and it wasn't white, it wasn't Asian, it wasn't black.
Was it George Clooney?
Well, definitely no.
Revolving too.
And by the way, it was a person of color, as you might guess. It would have to be, right? And so their point 40 years ago was that as a species, we're going to mix enough so that we're all going to more or less look the same. And, you know, I see that. I have been to I think it's Brownsville, Texas, down on the very southern tip of Texas. And down there you see Mexicans who look like Japanese. No doubt, okay, no doubt. And there are many Mexicans who look Japanese to me. And so they certainly are carrying genes from Asia, okay, even though they're, of this Hispanic part.
So the land bridge?
Pardon?
The land bridge?
Yep. And but there are any number of Hispanic people who are on television who, if I didn't know better, I would think they were Japanese. Okay, I would guess they were Japanese, not Hispanic. Okay, and honestly, my daughter married a Korean American, so she's already contributing to that. She's got 3 kids. After 10,000 years, who knows? I don't know if 10,000 years is enough. And Dr. Jung was all about individuality, by the way, okay? He hated collective thought. And in fact, any large company composed of wholly admirable persons has the morality and intelligence of an unwieldy, stupid, and violent animal. I'll give you that. Another thing he said is that 100 brilliant men in a room equals 1 fathead. That's what he said. Okay, because the more people you add to a group, the less intelligence there is of the group. Okay, but what Edinger is saying is that the God image is an archetype, okay? And Jung said, we cannot differentiate between the God image and God, the metaphysical God, okay? We cannot differentiate between the God image and the metaphysical God, okay? Yes, you want to?
Well, the metaphysical God is a thought form, and the other is an experience.
You're talking about, like, he uses the term hypostatic.
Well, the image.
Meaning
Hypo-
concrete,
hypothesis.
making God concrete. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, reification.
Well,
No, the God image to me is that experience. And you said God image, and what was the other one? The
Metaphysical God.
metaphysical God. The metaphysical God's all wrapped in intellectual thought, whereas the God image is that which you can't really put into intellectual thought because it exceeds all thought. So it's like you can tell the difference to me.
Isn't that what metaphysical is?
Yeah, that's metaphysical. And officially, Jungians say nothing about the metaphysical God. And you'll see in Edinger's lecture that
It might be personality types because I'm a feeler, and I think a thinker. Maybe that's what the difference is. One is the feeler and one's the thinker.
yeah, it's sort of that. But what Edinger says is, I'm not talking about the metaphysical God. I don't know anything about that God, quote unquote. Okay, and this is a man who's a psychiatrist, a medical doctor, practicing for 50 years, founder of the C.G. Jung Institute, and he says, I don't know anything about the metaphysical God. I'm only talking about the God that we can identify in the psychology of modern man. Okay, and that is the God image, which they say is equal to the self, which is equal to Christ, and we'll talk about that. That's a whole book. Okay, it's this book, Aeon by C.G. Jung, talks about Christ as the model for the self. We're not going to go into that tonight, obviously, but the point is that we're talking about a psychological experience, an experience that you can have, an experience that I had on video on January 16th, 2017.
Have you never meditated on why that made you cry?
I did for years, for 20 years. In fact, I had mentioned it before in this group a few months earlier, and Bill didn't make his comment that time.
Because he had to meditate on it.
Maybe, yeah. But I had mentioned it before, and I was still mystified. Okay. And then all of a sudden, boom, just one little thing clicked, and that got it for me. Okay, I mean, it's still just even talking about it right now gives me goosebumps. And so that is an experience of the God image.